Well, good morning, friends. Happy Monday, June 29th, to everyone listening. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic start to your morning. I know I absolutely am. Hopefully, you had a fantastic weekend. For me, weekends kind of feel the same as weekdays these days. Hard for me to put a finger exactly on why, but Saturday and Sunday felt no different than Wednesday and Thursday for me. No real way to explain it. What's up, Jarmani? What's up, Jamie? Allie, Isabel, everybody, welcome in as everybody comes trickling in. Allie informed me it's capitalist propaganda to hate Mondays, so I'm going to tell you guys all to enjoy this Monday as you kick off your week. Um, I will admit, as you guys know, this is my first time being laid off from any position ever. What's up, Deborah? Um, it's a very unique experience for me to be going through this right now, and so like everything I'm realizing is like a first time realizing anything. And I have to say, what's up, Shar? What's up, Justin? I have to say, uh, weekends kind of get ruined by getting laid off. Like, I don't get me wrong, I had some fun on Saturday, and I'm actually going to start the show off talking a little bit about that. But by and large, I found myself kind of struggling to unplug in a way that you normally do on weekends. When I was at the station, I basically was doing the same workload. I'd argue that I worked even harder last week than I do normally when I was employed with the previous station. Um, just trying to get some things set up. I have a Mac computer now. Let me know how the audio sounds, by the way. I should have a microphone plugged into this thing for tomorrow's show. But do I sound like I have been sounding to you guys for last week's shows? So you're gonna have to keep me posted on that kind of stuff because I'm learning right along with you, and I obviously can't watch myself. Okay, good. So the audio sounds good right now. It will sound even better tomorrow. Um, but what's up, gamer? What's up, Carla? Fenway, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody's trickling in here. Okay, I've never owned a Mac computer before, and it feels like I just learned how to speak Arabic. Like just even putting or write Arabic, idiot. Um, just putting apps on this freaking thing was a chore in and of itself. So, uh the fact that we even have this much of it up and running feels good. We should have the connector software to allow all of the streams to be operating, God willing, by tomorrow. Um, but we're churning along here. But I really found it difficult to unplug. I went with a friend of mine that I go out with all the time with APL, Laura Lee. We went to go see the new Supergirl movie. We're both into the superhero scene, so we went to check out Supergirl. And I regret to inform everyone that as a feminist that was looking forward to really enjoying this movie, I saw the nerds online complaining about like the main actress and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I'm gonna go check this out. It was fine. I wanted it to be better than it was, but unfortunately, it didn't get to the level that I really wanted it to be at. But what I realized while I was out there though was that I was kind of struggling like disconnecting. Like those of you that may know, um I used to and will bring back very soon. I have a movie podcast called Off Topic, and I would go to the movies once every Tuesday and go watch a movie. And when I had my routine, that was where I turned my brain off. Like I genuinely didn't think about politics, didn't think about the show, didn't think about anything outside of what was happening on the screen. And I went to go check the movie out Saturday, and I have to say that I was kind of losing myself in my own head there at times. I realized I was zoning out, didn't know what was happening in the plot because I was thinking about the stuff that I had to do here, what I still needed to do to get off the ground. And it really is a new mindset, and I'm not even saying a bad mindset, just a new mindset that I'm not used to having here. So more things to come, more improvements to come. We have a lot of announcements coming your way. You guys have been seeing me teasing something lately. And like the best part is like I think realistically, I probably could just tell you guys right now, but I'm gonna wait to hammer out the final details here. But let's just say we got a good opportunity as far as sponsors go on the program. A couple of different entities showing interest, and it looks like my show might be getting scooped by a second online operation, as well as the Minocqua one that we're already going to start being syndicated on here. Yes, no blinds. No blinds, and I got Jack Skellington in the background to make sure that I feel safe. Nobody comes up from behind me, so we got good things going. Good things going. We don't have the lights set up the way I want yet. We're gonna have some red and blue going. I want it to be darker. I want it to be ominous. But we got some good things churning out here. That I'm very excited to relay to you guys. And I've been cryptically intimating that some good things are happening. If you haven't seen my Facebook post already, well, just stand back and stand by. Those words aren't charged in any way, I don't think so. Stand back and stand by because we've got a good thing. We got some good things going here, and I'm very excited. Oh, and oh, the bobblehead's me. This was a gift for being the best man at a wedding. That's me as a bobblehead. Best man. Bang. I am the best man if you think about it. Um, but so yeah, that's what I got going on over there. Um, wait, it looks like vote for Aragorn. Oh shoot. Um, can I scroll this like that? Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Emotional support Skellington. Yeah, exactly. All right, yeah, and you can tell I've been moving shit around in my apartment. This thing right here is actually my bedroom dresser. I'm sitting in my living room. This is my living room couch. Um, and yet we got there's just a lot of flux right now, but I appreciate you guys putting up with it and tolerating it. We got the content. That's all you guys ever really cared about anyway. Hell, 9 days ago, all you had was my voice, and most of you were content with it. So the fact that we've got some video here now is exciting for what the future may bring. And also, still banned from TikTok until 9/22. So we'll be getting live on TikTok at 9:30. Been getting canceled quite a bit the last week and a half here. Realistically, the last month if you count shadow banning, but you just can't keep a good guy down, as I oftentimes say. And I do have to say, before we kick off proper, I have to laugh. And for those of you that are a bit newer to the program, um, my whole career as an on-air personality, um, I would have specific shows. Forget about over the tenure of the career. Just over the course of the 2.5 hours I was on the air, I would be called a die-hard MAGA because I was talking, about the Democratic Party. And this show will be no different. We're going to talk about Donald Trump openly admitting on Truth Social. I'm going to read you a post he made in just a little bit here saying, yeah, if we do anything other than full steam ahead with the tariffs, we might bankrupt this country. And I would do segments like that. And then in the next segment, I would start talking about how the Democrats are punching left now, how they have no interest in actually attacking Republicans in the way that they attack um, progressives, leftists. And I have quite a few examples of that taking place over the weekend. And I would do both of those kind of segments because I can't stand anybody that's corrupt and doesn't intend to make things better, regardless if the almighty D or the almighty R is next to their name. And I would start getting inundated with comments. You're you're such a MAGA. You're such a lib. I thought this was a bipartisan show. I can't believe you're comfortable talking this way. Blah, 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 blah. And, when it first happens, you get defensive, you let them have it. And then, like, eventually it just kind of rolls off your back because you realize some people just can't stand hearing something that doesn't conform to their personality, their beliefs, whatever the situation may be. I had a very similar experience this weekend, although not through not through the same perspective. Instead of being called both MAGA and liberal in the same week, this weekend I was both being lauded for being canceled because people couldn't handle my opinions, and also called a sellout because I was allowing the Minocqua Brewing Company to carry my show. seen one individual in particular saying, "I literally can't believe that you are partnering with this person." Now, I really want to make it clear. Kirk offered to bail me out financially when I kind of had the rug ripped out from under me a week ago, and I'm always going to appreciate that. He and I do not see eye to eye. I'm writing my first article for his Minocqua Brewing Times in 2 months. Later on, as soon as I wrap this show up today, I'm going to knock out 1,000 word article. And for the record, it's going to be an article about how the national spotlight is going to be thrust upon us soon, because I'm pretty sure that Francesca Hong is going to come away with the nom in the Democratic primary. By the way, I will be trying to get the other candidates on here still and see if I can talk them into doing this. But my gut's telling me, if you were asking me to put $1,000 on it right now, I'd say Hong's probably going to come out of the primary. He doesn't necessarily see eye to eye with that, or at least didn't when he was running. Nothing about this show is going to change. And the person is like, "I can't believe you're doing this." And I gave him an offer. I said, "I'll tell you what, you can either pay me a couple $1,000s to do this, or you can pipe down, because I am the only person I know that can get canceled and be told he's a sellout in the same 24-hour period. Just like I can be called MAGA and Blue MAGA in the same show. So, no, I'm not selling out. I'm getting paid to do a job. You might say I'm out capitalism in a lot of the capitalists out there, but a lot of people struggle with that. And so, allow me to say right now, my opinions will not change. The show's going to be exactly the same. Outside of being carried on the Minocqua Brewing Substack, you're not even going to notice a difference if you listen through my YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok. So, anybody who has any consternation or worries about the path that this show is going to be on from that perspective, allow me to put that to bed right now. It's going to be the exact same show. So I hope that puts everybody's mind at ease about what the future is going to look like. Believe you me, if my opinions could be changed by management or the people that I work with, I'd probably still have a radio show, right? So so we'll see what happens there. What are you saying here, Mallory? I get shit from both parties too. I think that I already mentioned it, but some of the local members, GOP and Dems, are mad that independents are running elections. Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you, serial killer clown. Yes, I did. I did. I've always been in it for the money. That's why you leave a sales job where you're getting six figures to go and work in local radio. That's where all the sellouts go. I don't know if you guys knew that. Um, I can't remember, Killer Clown, if you told me who you were, but I hope you'll remind me at some point. You don't have to do it in the public chat if you don't want to. You can do it in the private chat. That's absolutely fine. And since am I able to maximize my window in StreamYard so it isn't cropped? Is that what you're talking about? Hold on, I got a message on Facebook here. I'm going to see if that worked. Hold on. Did it look weird to you guys? We'll see what happens. And I can also have Facebook up today, which is nice. And I just remembered that. So I'm going to pull. Okay, cool. He's into it now. All right, good. Yeah, thank you for keeping the messages there. Perfect, perfect. And we're just getting started, Andy. I appreciate the tip there. Just wait, when I actually have the studio put together, there's a lot of moving parts right now, a lot of things, and I'm gonna have my bush league at my apartment studio that looks all right. And then I can't tell you, but let's just say there's going to be a second venue that is going to be much fancier and much nicer, but we're probably about 6 weeks to 2 months away from having that. If you haven't seen my Facebook page, you should go look at my most recent post, and that's a hint of things to come here in the near future. But we've got a lot of good things happening right now, and I've been told to stop thanking the people in my life, but I genuinely maintain that if it weren't for the people that have bought into this show, the community that has been so supportive, minus a handful of you that I just absolutely let have it. And I hope you guys are appreciating me just dunking on the MAGAs in my comments now that I'm not beholden to anybody telling me to be polite. But if it weren't for you guys, I absolutely wouldn't have the kind of drive and mindset. I probably would have been sulking. for the entirety of the last week, had it not been for all of you guys. So I do genuinely appreciate that very much. How do I find my live? There he is. Okay, bang. Hello, all the people on Facebook. I actually have you guys up today as well, so that's a nice change of pace from what's relative. Hey, Gene, Ken, Ali, D, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Um, yeah, I appreciate that, Kathleen. And it's more so the people that call me a socialist, call me a communist, and then I'm like, yeah, so I'm going to get paid to do my show through Minocqua. And then they're like, I can't believe you're getting paid by that guy. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. How would you suggest I do this then? How does this work? So, I mean, mind blowing to me that that's how people operate, but who the hell am I? So, anyway, on to the news of the day, shall we? Oh, and allow me to post a although you know what, let me make a couple good points first. And then I'll post the link because inevitably you guys all talk. What's up, Rose? Inevitably you guys all talk so much that you push the link like 40 comments up and then no one knows how to find it after that. So I'll post it a little bit later. Yeah, I'm supposed to work for free, exactly. But then when I say billionaires should be taxed so that I have a social plan program, then I'm a socialist. But also, I shouldn't take money from people offering me money. It's almost like MAGA stands for nothing or something. It's strange how that works. Um, okay, I should be able to pin it. Let's try that. Okay, I keep forgetting that I'm not on my iPad anymore. Okay, so copy. I'm going to paste this Mother Hubbard right here. Is it that one? Cool. All right. You have to hit Command. It's not Control V, it's Command V on a Mac. Arabic. I'm telling you, the whole thing's in Arabic. All right, there it is. Okay. And then I guess I can just kind of do this, right? And then you guys can copy paste that maybe? Is that the right way to do it? I don't know. We'll start with that. We'll see what happens. Every time Marx mentions Lenin and capital, yeah. Yeah, take a shot. It's funny. I was just you know what? I'm not going to open that can of worms right now. But yeah, and please everybody like and subscribe who hasn't already. So many of you guys have been very good. Marianne, what's up? Good hearing from you on Facebook. Long time no see. I'm assuming you've heard about the terrible mistakes made by our previous employer. Oh, and by the way, we're almost 20 minutes into this and I haven't done any news yet. Yeah, Mike, you're gonna get me in trouble. By the way, well, shout out to Mikey as well. He stopped by my place and got my car running. I told him that I was gonna push you guys to offer to use him to repair your cars, but he's got enough work that he doesn't need it right now. So there will come a time, but just know that Mike, you'll eat anything, is the man, and he's great at what he does, and he's incredibly friendly. And anytime he needs anything, I got him covered. And I did meet with management on Saturday. I collected all my stuff. They deleted my outside the box page off of the WHBY website, but I was given the audio for every single episode of my show. Um, I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet, but um, I'm probably going to upload them somewhere. But and I did quasi bury the hatchet. It was a very cordial experience. I'll never get over it. I'm angry quite a bit, but still very pleasant at the same time. But we parted cordially as friends. And I think it was probably the healthiest way to wrap things up because Lord knows this isn't corporate like mega corporations, but it still was a corporate place and decisions come from up above. And while I can't get into the specifics of anything for legal reasons, I can say they fired the only political voice they had that was the only talent generating any kind of buzz on the talk and text line, that was the only one having knowledgeable, informative conversations about politics 6 weeks before a DSA member is probably going to come out of the Democratic primary. So I'll allow you guys to determine how it is that we got there, because far be it for me to assume anything. Yeah, exactly. Ken says everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that, but you know what? I'm just going to make it matter. So that's all that matters. And now on to the news of the day. And I want to start with Donald Trump because that's where it really should start. Even though I'm much more pissed off at the Democratic Party right now, just because of the way they've been behaving towards progressive victories around the nation, and I think it's a pretty obvious way that they've been reacting. I want to save that for the 10 o'clock hour because then, because Donald Trump is obviously the president, and they, being the Republicans, control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Um, so obviously, any mess ups that we are all dealing with right now, or the fact that in the last 2 months we have seen the largest jump in home prices that we have seen in the last 4 years, which almost feels impossible. So if Brian is listening right now, um, Waka Waka, it looks as though it might be a little more difficult than 1983. But what are we going to do about that, you know? But so I want to start with Donald Trump because even though I want the Democrats so badly, we have to have real talks. Donald Trump took to Truth Social and posted this, and this is real. I corroborated it. I was like, this has to be AI. This has to be a fake post. There is no scenario where this is actually um, how he is talking about the decisions that he's made. Um, the actual numbers, quote, the actual numbers that we would have to pay back if, for any reason, the Supreme Court were to rule against the United States of America on tariffs would be many hundreds of billions of dollars. And that doesn't include the amount of payback that countries and companies would require for the investments they are making on the building plants, factories, and equipment for the purpose of being able to avoid the payment of tariffs. When these investments are added, we are talking about trillions of dollars and would be a complete mess and almost impossible for our country to pay. Anybody who says that we can be quickly and easily done would be making a false, inaccurate, or totally misunderstood answer to this very large and complex question. It may not be possible, but if it were, it would be dollars that would be so large that it would take many years to figure out what number we are talking about and even who, when, and where to pay. Remember, when America shines brightly, the world shines brightly. In other words, if the Supreme Court rules against the United States of America on this national security bonanza, we're screwed. Donald J. Trump. Thanks, Chuck. That's real. That's a real comment from a sitting president of a country and former reality TV star. As the Supreme Court is making these decisions, trying to peer pressure them into saying, if they don't allow me to do this thing, which a lot of people declared to be illegal when they first did it, um, we're going to be even broker as a country and more in debt as a country than we are right now. Anne says if we take shots every time I say waka waka, will she be able to make it till 9:45? I'm trying to only hit it once a show. We'll see. But I already used it. I already used my allotment for the day. But I've been known to not follow my own rules. Anyway, um, but so that's him openly admitting it because I have the trolls, right? My TikToks tend to be pretty inundated by them. Oh, and by the way, I can get live on TikTok now. My TikToks tend to be pretty inundated by the trolls. Unfortunately, the right wingers have found me on that app, and they'd be like, "Man, sure seems like the Supreme Court's killing it with these decisions here," and they're talking about the fact that like life has been made harder for Haitians because if you call MAGA bigots, they get super mad about it. But seems like they're really happy uh, about the decisions the Supreme Court's making. They also made it difficult for different companies to be able to sue if you find yourself ending up getting diagnosed with cancer when being surrounded by any type of weed killer that contained the material glyphosate. The companies have been provided a lot of cover from that front. Looks like the Maha movement doesn't seem to be too loud about anything going on there. but it doesn't change the reality of the situation for a lot of people. But so the Supreme Court's also going to be ruling on that, and Donald Trump's getting out ahead of it here. And like, it really is disheartening from a political discourse standpoint, because I foolishly, to a certain extent, give people the benefit of the doubt. I believed when MAGA was out of power and people were expressing frustration with Joe Biden's economy, that they actually meant it, because I meant it. Because I would say I recognize that America is trending in the right direction for inflation, but not fast enough. That we're calling it inflation when in reality it's corporate greed. The Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and they are not going nearly extreme enough. Again, Republicans get a trifecta. We get a masked Virgin Army, tax cuts for the rich, and billionaire corruption across the entire country. Liberals take control and they say we can eliminate half of child poverty for 1 year, but then we're going to let it go back to the original levels after enough time goes by. And that was my frustration with it, right? I was like, you guys could be doing so much more and you're giving us excuses and you're playing with fire. And sure enough, it was borne out to be accurate. Where I get mad is Republicans are now going to be in the same boat. Their lives empirically have not gotten any better. Um, Life is still far too expensive. As I mentioned, housing prices have only are seeing increases that are setting records for the last 4 years. The list goes on and on. It's stuff we talk about in this show all the time. And now Donald Trump is coming out and saying the main economic thrust of my platform is not only making your lives more expensive, but if we do away with it, you're all going to be, the country's going to be broke, and I don't know how we're going to pay it back. And there is not a single peep coming from the same people that did not stop bitching the entire time that Joe Biden was in office. And it's very disheartening for me, because it feels as though, and welcome everybody on TikTok. Thank you for being patient during my strife. It feels as though Donald Trump has a floor, right? Around 35%. His popularity will never drop below 35%. And I don't want to lump everybody into the same cult-like mentality. I don't want to believe that that is the way that they operate. And there is no lens through which to look at this other than that, right? Because if you were frustrated by Joe Biden, then you should be even more mad now. Unless, of course, Haitians losing their protection status or whatever the hell the Supreme Court decision was, unless that was your main thrust, unless that was what you were most concerned about from this presidency, it's hard to ignore. And I see Serial Killer Clown saying, uh, Trumpism is a cult-like religion. I get that, but I would say blue MAGA is as well, because people were pretending like Bidenomics was working when it objectively wasn't. Sorry, I realized my volume's still on my phone. And Violated Elf, I know you can't give me gifts on here. By the way, quick tangent, and I'm going to start mentioning this a little bit more often. I created a link tree, Allie or Jen, if you can post it in the comments. I created a link tree. Nobody feel obligated to do this. I haven't got a pay. Or no, the Patreon is up there. Anybody who wants to support me on an independent basis, there is my Venmo and a Patreon in the link tree. You can throw me a couple bucks if you feel so inclined. And Elf, you can obviously hop back on TikTok as well if that's more your speed. But anybody who's comfortable or in an economic position to be able to do so, I absolutely appreciate it. But I also don't feel comfortable asking people for those kind of things. But I've been told that I have to get more comfortable with it. So it's available in my link tree. It's in my bio on YouTube. It's in my links on my Facebook and Twitter. for right now, and it'll be in all the other places as we move forward here. So just an FYI for anybody who wants to support the show going forward. Thank you for stopping by, LDU. But so I get that they're a cult. I get that that's the go-to line, right? And that's all right. I have always given the benefit of the doubt because I was treated like a crazy person during the Biden years. And now it's becoming abundantly clear to me that the same people that couldn't stop complaining about the Joe Biden economy are thrilled with what's happening right now. And when, not if, I'm going to be real, but when some milquetoast liberal ends up winning in 2028, um, the same MAGA people will be back to complaining by February when their life isn't affordable again. And it swings both ways because I also predicted that you would start to hear Democrats not mainline, and we'll get into that more in the 10 o'clock hour, but I did predict the second Democrats no longer had control of anything, they'd be much more willing to talk about our allies in the Middle East and the actions they were taking in Palestine and Lebanon. And sure enough, the moment Donald Trump left, a lot of Democrats seemed to find their vocal cords. Not all of them, not all of them. Turns out those APAC dollars spend pretty well, but a lot of them ended up finding those vocal cords. Oh, Mallory, if you can stick around for the 10 o'clock hour, you don't even know. If you haven't been watching the Sunday morning shows, specifically on Fox News, where Democrats are going, the strategy for leftist candidates starting to win around the nation is becoming abundantly clear from the blue MAGA libs, and it is not a strategy that I'm going to be supporting. But we'll get more into that in the 10 o'clock hour. But so it's not like Democrats are immune to this behavior, but it's just so flagrantly obvious because at least under Biden, things were getting better. Slowly, not in ways that impacted everybody, like Ticketmaster couldn't charge you for random fees anymore. They couldn't ding you on baggage fees on airports. And if they canceled your flight, they had to reimburse you. It was just like little shit like that in a time when no everybody is drowning in student debt, medical debt, and has no idea how they're going to be able to move out of their parents' basement. I'd be like, okay, this is nice to have, but I think you guys got to start taking this shit a little bit more seriously now. Republicans aren't even pretending to care. They're actually rolling back a lot of those plans. Ticketmaster now has carte blanche again. Airlines no longer have to reimburse you. Student loans have kicked back in, and everything's getting more expensive. So like they basically position it as, do you want to pay baggage fees or do you want a mass Virgin Army? And those are the two things that you're allowed to be able to choose between. And now that a party's gaining a little bit of momentum, you can feel the entire system starting to panic a little bit. But again, more on that at 10. But so to even further the point here, there is, since I told you I'm a movie guy. Oh, Jimmy, what's up? He said Jersey's in the house. Right on. Let me pull my Facebook up again here really quickly before I move on to the next story to see if I'm missing any other comments here while we do this. Um, Jason, what's going up? Looks like the judicial branch got pruned. Exactly. Anne says, no one, no matter what side of the aisle, likes to be called names. MAGA doesn't like to be called bigot or Nazi. You don't like to be called communist or socialist. We all have to get to a point where we can see both sides, not agree with each other, and talk about it, not call each other names. Ah, what am I talking about? It's a pipe dream where we can all play nice in a sandbox. No, exactly. And again, like, I realize I'm biased, and like I get that. We all have our biases. I never hid that, although people seem to claim that I did, but I'm pretty sure I called myself a progressive and a leftist with relative consistency. But I'd argue that saying that billionaires could pay a little bit more isn't socialism or communism, but I'd argue that a masked government agency being able to pew pew Americans and not even face some kind of trial or investigation is much more towards authoritarianism than anything that the Democratic Party has ever done relative to socialism. What's funny is now Democratic Socialists of America are winning and people aren't scared because it's not like they have an economic leg up right now. So Donald Trump has taken to calling them communists because socialism doesn't scare people the way that it did anymore because all people know is this system isn't their friend. Um, and Jay says those views aren't equal. Violet says I am commie trash, which yeah, I feel that. Aaron says my MAGA dad already thinks I'm a commie. Like, okay, thanks. Oh, right. And I mean, the first four letters of my name are literally commie, so people think they're being creative. People used to call me commie all the time before I was even politically engaged, let alone once people started to figure out what my political beliefs were. Again, not a communist. Not that that stops people from not understanding how words work. I will say, and I feel like 3% bad about it. Lady Jane sent me a private message in her normal way where she sent like three nice words and then proceeded to just shit on me for 2 paragraphs for losing my job. And I went scorched earth on her. And because it was just like I hit a point after 3.5 years where I was like, you know what? This has been bottled up for 3 years and I'm just going to let her have it. And I did. Um, but so I feel that. But so in any event, the reason I know, and MAGA is not going to want to hear this, but this is a thing. This is a real thing, and it ties my love of movies in with um, the identity politics of the right. And much to the chagrin of a lot of the people in my chat right now, I am not an advocate of identity politics. I never have been. I recognize that there are marginalized communities in America, but there's enough straight cis white dudes that are struggling in America too that if you talk to them about plans specifically benefiting identity groups that they don't identify as they are trying to make it, they are going to turn inward and look elsewhere. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that that doesn't change the historical inequities that are out there. I am talking to you from a if you want to win elections standpoint. Identity politics is not the way to go. I'm telling you right now, I've never experienced it in my life. If I want my health care, I have to pay over $600 a month at a time when I lost my income. And if I want to collect unemployment, again, neither of these are a concern. Nobody panic. I'm not crying poverty or anything like that. Again, I'm already matching my salary, all that jazz. I physically am unable already to collect unemployment. All of this, everything's good on my end. If I didn't have a community and the backing of people that believed in what it was that I was trying to do, I would be sitting here talking to you right now. You make $1,200 a month in unemployment, and if you want your health care, it costs you $600, more than $600 a month, to pay for the health care that you lose when you lose employment. Greatest country in the world. And there are a lot of white dudes in this country that find themselves in that position. If I were not the person that I am, I would be sitting there listening to people talk about how hard other people have it, saying, um, I'm living a life right now where if I want health care, it's going to take half the money that I get through unemployment, and I still have rent to pay and food to eat and all these other things in my life. Somebody explain to me how this is going to be sustainable. That's what so many people find themselves in America right now beyond identity. So when I talk about I never do identity politics. I didn't do it as a liberal, and that's when MAGAs didn't bitch to management about my show, and that's why I got to keep a job. Now we're all realizing that what MAGA actually mean is I want to do straight white guy identity politics, and they're doing it in spades right now. Wait, what did Just Jay say? Jay saying 900 a month for her on or for her health care. Had a checkup 2 weeks ago and owes $500. Exactly, exactly. They're saying if I want to keep the healthcare that I had through my work, like I had my call with HR on Thursday. If I want my healthcare, I'm sure there's other options, but for perspective, it's like $613. I could pull the paperwork out if I were legally allowed to. Um, but I'm telling you right now, I can't imagine. And again, I am approaching this from a perspective of somebody who is getting paid to syndicate his show, potentially by a second place pretty soon. I have endorsements lining up. I have a circle of friends that if shit really hit the fan would be willing to provide me with financial help. I have a dad who would walk through hell to help me out if I ever really needed it. Most people don't have that. Like, and having the self-reflection and ability to be able to look at that kind of shows you why so many people are angry. Don't get me wrong, the MAGA morons blaming Haitians and Mexicans and Muslims for their problems is frustrating that you guys can't seem to identify the very obvious thing holding you back, and it ain't the people lower on the pyramid than you are. Um, but that doesn't change the fact that their frustration with the system is valid. They're just easily duped. Jamie says, unreal perspective of name calling. Maybe our president should lead us all by example. Pocahontas, Sleepy Joe, Democrats, what a failure of morals that he is. Represent. Well, I will say, and all right, let me start here. Enough of you guys have reached out to me, people that I respect, and said, Ben, I think you should cuss a little bit less on the show. And upon a week's reflection, I have decided I'm not going to cut it out entirely, but I am going to cuss less. Um, I spent last week talking how I actually talk. I would oftentimes make the joke on Outside the Box radio that there's 5% of me that really thinks Donald Trump is funny. It's the worst 5% of me. I acknowledge that. I but I'm from a city. We shit talk all the time. My best friends said so many things to me that was mean as hell, playfully. And it's how I was brought up. And I would be brought into management's office all the time. They'd be like, Ben, you can't be calling people inbred virgins. I'm like, they're cheering what happened to Renee Good. He was like, Ben, there's an image. And I was like, it's my personal account. And they were like, you're tied with the station, you can't. And so last week was a bit liberating that I could let people know if you're cheering for ICE and specifically their actions, not the concept of immigration enforcement, specifically this iteration of ICE, um, you're probably not a good person. And I let people know that in some very mean ways. Um, so that's kind of the way I approach it. And I see a lot of people saying they like the cussing. They say I should be me, you be you. I feel that, but I also want this show to be palatable for sponsors. And again, my mystery sponsor, which I'm sure if you really put two and two together, you'll probably be able to put it together. Has not said anything to me about it, but I am making a decision because it's been longtime listeners whose opinions I respect who have said, Ben, you have too large of a vocabulary to be dropping that many F bombs. And they're right. I read a lot of books. I do have a large vocabulary and I can probably do better. But I was also raised blue collar leftist and I like cussing. So it's going to be a happy medium there on that front. But so still the plucky, lovable leftist you have all come to know and love, and I have nothing but love in my heart for all populations of people. I just have a particular way of saying it. And especially bringing in an AM talk radio audience. Some of you guys skew a little older, and like people like Kathleen will drop F bombs in my comments, which cracks me up. She was like, can you stop fucking blaming boomers? And I'll be like, read the stats. Read the stats, Kathleen. It's not my opinion. All I'm doing is reporting the facts. All right? don't get mad at me for this kind of stuff. Rachel says it makes me seem more real. Don't get me wrong, it's not going away. I watched an episode and I counted, and in 2 hours I said it over 40 times. And like that's a lot. That's a lot. That's one every 3 minutes. I can do better than that. Um yeah, it's human to look at these headlines and say WTF. Exactly. Exactly. But so to bring this all full circle here, and by the way, I'm an iPad kid. I get mocked on my TikTok, but apparently there's such a thing as an iPad kid for younger people. You know me, kids are for squares, so I don't think about it. A lot of the discourse, and to bring it into the world of movies, and I hate that I'm even going to say this title, so I'm going to preface it with this: do not fucking watch this movie. I don't even have Apple TV. It's one of the few streaming services I don't have, although I am looking into cutting back on streaming services for a little bit until I can, figure out what life's going to look like come, 2027 and beyond. I figured this half year is just going to be a little like, all right, let's ride this wave, see where life's going to take us here. But Apple TV is one that I currently don't have right now. A movie called Citizen Vigilante is out, and not only is it out, but it has risen to number one. At the same time that everybody is calling the incredibly beautiful actress, who I don't know her name, but who played Supergirl, ugly. Because the men in this country leave a lot to be desired, specifically on the right. Um, but so women in superhero movies, big no no. Citizen Vigilante taking off like rocket fuel. Number one movie on a minimalist budget. People seem to love it. It must be great. What's it about? Well, it's starring U Bowl, who, yeah, UW, or I don't even know how to spell his name, honestly. Or excuse me, it's starring Army Hammer. It's a U Bowl movie, and if you've ever seen a U Bowl movie, you know what you're getting into. Oh wait, what are you saying here, Brian, about accept boomer busting? I don't know what you said there. Um, but yeah, you bowl. There it is. Thank you, Justin. Have you seen anything about this movie? It's wild. So it's called Citizen Vigilante, and it is quite literally a movie about a white guy going around shooting Muslims and immigrants. Now, they're not innocent in the movie. Like one is a guy who essays, I can't say the word, but he, let's say, he goes after a younger a girl under 18, um and essentially snuffs out the person's entire family. One scene came up on my TikTok feed and I watched it. And keep in mind, this is coming from a guy who has seen all three Hostel movies multiple times, who has not only seen a movie called I Spit on Your Grave, I have seen a movie called I Spit on Your Grave 3. Um, Eli Roth's Clown is a fantastic movie. I can go on and on. I am not faint of heart. I am not a prude. And for the record, from an actual special effects standpoint and a graphic standpoint, it looked fine. I wasn't offended by anything I've seen. It's a guy with a gun, son of a gun, with a pew pew, uh, taking matters into his own hands, right? It looks like it was filmed on an iPhone, first of all. It looks incredibly cheaply made. And more importantly, there is no cinematography, there's no stylistic nature. I watched our favorite Nazi salute and trillionaire give this movie its props. And that's kind of what I'm building towards here. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. But he said there's been 4 John Wick movies and people say John Wick is a fantastic series, and it is. In my opinion, it breathed life into an action genre of movies that desperately needed it. And now everybody's trying to copy John Wick and failing, with a few exceptions. The Bob Odenkirk movie, Nobody, the first one, was actually okay. But by and large, the John Wick movies are some of the best action movies that have come out, but most well shot, most cinegraphic, so just so beautifully done, that it made something that had become rote cool again. Uh, no shame at all for the John Wick movies. So our favorite Nazi salute and trillionaire says people love those movies. Um, I don't understand what the problem is with these movies. This is very obviously fantasy for old white guys that want to be doing this themselves. He's just going around. Again, Donald Trump has been found civically guilty of doing you know what to E. Jean Carroll to the point where it was brought up at the Supreme Court and they held up the decision. They were like, yeah, no, this decision tracks. MAGA doesn't want to hear anything about that. But a random dude with no authority going into the home of a family of Muslims and saying that guy took advantage of a 14-year-old and then taking out the entire family. Well, that's just good business. If only I could be doing that as well. This movie deserves an Oscar. I'm not being hyperbolic. What's up, Adam? Um, it's been happening all over my feed has been all this. Elon Musk is amplifying it to the point where um he said this is what people want to see. And Elon Musk has it. You know I don't follow him, right? You know I'm not the guy who's being like, "Oh, I wonder what Elon Musk is going to say next." I don't follow Elon, but the Mother Hubbard bought the freaking uh app for $44 billion and made it so that we can all see what he's saying. And Inevitable West is who posted it, which is a Nazi account. Again, not name calling. I'm not like, "Oh, you Nazi." No, a proud, unabashed Nazi account said Citizen Vigilante has now hit #1 on Amazon in the United States. The film the establishment doesn't want people to see has gone viral. And then the establishment went and retweeted it. Because I hate to break it to you, you morons, but the trillionaire is part of the establishment. He is not anti establishment. I can't believe I have to draw a picture for you about this kind of stuff. It's not difficult to understand. Oh, okay, Yahtzee, got it, got it. I have to say Yahtzee instead of the word that rhymes with that with an N in order to not get shadow banned on TikTok because we're in the land of the free, home of the brave. So Yahtzee account, and there are multiple Yahtzee accounts doing this as well. And Rusty, I see you say boycott X. I'm there with you, except for um unfortunately, like there is still good news in there. You just now have to sift through all the nonsense that is out there, unfortunately. um and seeing this take off, and they're not making that up, by the way. It's #1 on Apple. You can go and look it up right now. It's the #1 movie on Apple, and it's got no production budget, no storyline, no cinematography, mid acting. Like, if people are gonna say Supergirl is mid, I feel bad for even saying this is mid. This is just stupid. This is just objectively stupid what this movie is, and yet it's been bumped up to #1 because that's what these people do. They'll tank Bud Light because they put a trans person on a can, and then when this happens, they all support. And I will say, it's probably the biggest weakness of liberals slash the left is we are not as big of consumers as the right. I don't buy stuff. I think a lot of you guys don't buy stuff. People are like, "Oh, Starbucks supports our allies in the Middle East. I'm going to boycott there." I'm like, "Okay, I've never bought Starbucks in my life." Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a consumerist element to being right wing that I don't think the left and liberals have a capacity to capitalize on, because a lot of us don't really buy stuff. We aren't nearly as capitalist, or more specifically consumerist, I should say, as the right is. So when they're mad that there's a woman in charge of something and there's a dialogue scene where they say, "Why are you Supergirl yet you're in your 20s? Why aren't you Superwoman?" And they all throw a hissy fit because women are viewed as people in that movie. And then a movie about a white guy where it seems like he read the script that day is walking around just pew-pewing people of color all over his city to Cheers, gets bumped up to number one. I don't think that the Democrats or liberals can coalesce that way. I don't think they have the consumerist in them. When I tell people that I enjoy Marvel movies and comic book movies, I very rarely get mocked from the right. It's normally people on the left who read or watch like actually good movies. Like I can acknowledge superhero movies are dumb fun and I enjoy them, but I recognize I'm not watching Citizen Kane when I go to see the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie, right? Like I can acknowledge that, but I also just listed the kind of movies that I watch. It doesn't work that way on the Republican side. They have the dollars. If Democrat, Bud Light put, oh God, I'm blanking on the trans person's name now, and I used to know it. I'm not going to remember it. I apologize. You guys know who I'm talking about. Mulvaney, or is that whatever it was, Dylan something. Yeah, Mulvaney. Um, I'll tell you right now, I can't drink beer. I'm allergic to it. But when I did drink beer, you know what I didn't drink? Any light beers. And I'm willing to bet if I'm talking to you and you're listening in Wisconsin, you probably don't drink light beers either. But you know who did? The demographic for Bud Light, and then it reflected in their sales. And it's the same idea with this movie. But the reason I bring it up, the reason I tie it in to Trump's failing economy and the fact that he is objectively leaving us in a worse position than when he took office is because the same people who told me identity politics is strangling this nation, focusing on dividing us up into little subgroups is what's making us weaker as a population, are the same people that are cheering for this movie about a white guy who's been fed up with the different cultures that are in his neighborhood and is literally taking their lives. And that to me highlights a bigger problem that I think is hard to avoid. We got our first request for a guest today. Let me turn up the volume here really quickly and see what we have. I think we got a first timer here. What's on your mind? You there? Nope. Okay, good talk. It's like the fourth time you guys are doing this to me on the TikTok. But it was hard for me to avoid. It was hard for me to ignore this one. Exactly, scapegoating 101, because they don't have the guts to call out the rich. I saw a good friend of mine post, here's socialist countries, here's social democracies. And the socialist countries were all like Central South American ones, some out in Asia, you know, so on and so forth. And then the social democracies were the Scandinavian countries, right? Your Norways, your Finlands, your this, your that. And they were like, let's stop championing socialism and recognize that capitalism works and funds those programs. And I'm like, right on. I'm right there with you. Capitalism with a socialist waste belt. That is the best economic system out there. It's what I've been advocating for since day one. Uh, Tax billionaires. Gotta remember to turn the volume down after I don't have a guest. Tax billionaires and make sure that when you lose your job, you're not worried about how you're going to be able to pay for health care. No, you're good, Violet. Don't even worry about it. Never stop giving me donuts. I appreciate the gifts. And anybody on TikTok that's interested in a fiscal capability to give me a gift, please do. Rick says socialism with Chinese characteristics is the most successful economy on the planet. Exactly. Um, that's the way that it is. That's the way America functioned. The best middle class ever, Rick, was America between 1945 and 1983, when taxes were at 70 to 91% and you weren't allowed to do stock buybacks. The thing is, the same people, and I'm not accusing my friend of being this person, but the same people that will say, uh, Denmark isn't a socialist country. It's a social democracy. Are the same people that when I say cool, then let's just do what Denmark does. Um, And they'll be like, well, no, that's socialism. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, like you gotta pick your lane here, man. Because this is why the DSA is taking off. And I'm gonna kind of use this as a springboard into the 10 o'clock hour, but it's why the DSA is taking off, is because nobody believes capitalism is their friend right now. And anytime you propose capitalism with some basic checks to make sure that things don't get out of hand or go too far, people call that socialism. And it's like, well, okay, you got to meet me in the middle somewhere, because the system as it is right now absolutely blows. And the idea that healthcare was working up until the subsidies went away is an abject lie. And I'll tell you right now that the unemployment in this country that Republicans will not stop bitching about is not nearly enough to help you get by. And I'm a single dude. I realize that my unemployment would be more if I had dependents and whatnot, but pretending that um uh the amount that you get on your way out the door is enough for you to exist on is absolutely embarrassing. If I were dependent on that, I said that. I met the general manager on Saturday to clean out my desk and collect my things, and it was a pretty pleasant conversation, all things considered. And like, I'm kind of a hothead when I'm pissed, and he was like, honestly, I expected this to go a lot differently than it is. And I said, well, I'm already matching my salary. I said, if I were unemployed and had been stewing for the last week, this would be a very different conversation. But I can tell you from firsthand experience now, something that I've never had to experience before, because I've never been fired or laid off in my life. Shouldn't have been this time either. Um, that it is physically impossible to exist on unemployment. Aaron says, IDK, if you will see this in the news, but probably will. I missed the first. Oh, citizen vigilante is heavily political. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. Um, like it obviously is, because the people who claim they don't want politics in their movies do want politics in their movies. They just don't want the politics that are popular right now today in their movies. Case in point, True Lies. Everybody remember it? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis. Was it Michael Bay was the director, I think? Um, Fantastic movie. Thank you, Jamie, for the Venmo. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for the support. My Venmo's in my link tree for anybody that's in a position to throw me a couple bucks to help fund me from an independent standpoint. Again, not crying poverty about the unemployment. People are paying me for my show. I have sponsors lining up, but I do want to kind of build a subscription model as well, so that I can truly be independent and just be doing a show for you guys. So anybody who has the ability to do so, in my link tree in my bio on Facebook or YouTube, it is available there. But so Jamie Lee Curtis at one point in True Lies, which is about a movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger is a secret agent, but he acts like he's like an insurance salesman or something. And then Jamie Lee Curtis becomes aware of her husband's life, and they both kind of get ensnared in this plot to destroy America or whatever, and they go out and handle their thing. She is holding some kind of automatic pew pew, a machine pew pew of some kind. Maybe the one that starts with a U. Um, Cranky Yankee says certain states treat people who are going through a rough time like trash looking for a handout. Exactly. Yeah, it's an excellent film. Exactly. Justin, I'm right there with you. I enjoyed the movie very much. I will say, um, it's not the best depiction of people from the Middle East. And it even goes as far as, at one point, Jamie Lee Curtis drops a gun down the steps. And first of all, it's a physically impossible scene, because pew pews aren't meant to fire. There'd be so many more accidental deaths if they actually fired that way, right? Um, she drops it down the steps, and it rolls down the steps, and it's perpetually firing the entire time as it rolls. And she like takes out an entire room of bad guys by accident, and it's played for laughs, as these silly Muslims can't seem to figure out how to outwit this white woman, who's completely inept in every way. And again, played for laughs. I'm not offended by the scene. It was a different time, yada yada yada. All that's fine. I'm saying that scene doesn't play well in 2026. If you do that scene today, it doesn't play as well with people who actually have a capacity to think and evolve. I'm sure there will be people that laugh at it just out of spite, just like there's people that laugh at the same "I identify as an Apache helicopter" joke to make fun of the LGBTQ community, because it's the same joke repurposed 10,000 times, and you just want to laugh at trans people because people are like, "Oh, how about you actually just try and be funny instead?" And it's the same idea with that. So what this movie, with this citizen, like, so when Republicans say I don't want politics in my movie, True Lies had politics in the movie. Right? They don't care that the politics are in the movie. They're mad that the politics are reflective of the time and not reflective of the 90s anymore. Hell, it's a very similar, what's it called? Like the case for Apu, or whatever the documentary's called. Because when The Simpsons made Apu, who is the Indian convenience store operator, who was voiced by Hank Azaria, a white guy. So it was not problematic at all, because what The Simpsons did in the early 90s was show an Indian guy getting along with everybody. Nobody ever made a comment about the fact that he was Indian. He was just a part of the town. And in the early 90s, that was incredibly ahead of its time. Then by the mid 2010s, the fact that he was voiced by a white guy was viewed as racist. We shift our perception, as is the way it's supposed to work. Hell, if you tried to make the original Halloween in 2026. The original Halloween is classic. It is transcendent. It inspired a billion different slasher movies that came out after Halloween. If you tried to make Halloween in 2026, I would walk out 10 minutes in. I'd be like, what was the budget of this movie? $6? How did they feel comfortable releasing this? Because movies evolve, thinking evolves, filmmaking evolves. Everything's supposed to get better. And it's the same concept with race relations. It's the same concept with politics and movies. I've used this example about a half a dozen times on my show before, but in 1998, the original Blade came out, um, starring Wesley Snipes. Now, allow me to describe the plot to you in very obvious ways that in 1998 people were completely unaware of, but if it came out today, it would be called woke liberal nonsense and anti-white. Um, it's a movie about Wesley Snipes, who's a black man who is half vampire, half human, because his mom was bit by a vampire while he was being born, and he was born with all of the vampire's strengths and none of their weaknesses. That was the line that they used. So he could walk out in the sun and do all those things, but he had the craving for blood. But he would have to go out there, and he would go and he would take out the regular vampires. The regular vampires were all played by white guys. And not only were all the vampires played by white guys, but the vampires had connections with people called familiars. Familiars were non vampires that helped the vampires create their system that was bleeding the humans dry. The familiars were comprised of police officers and lawyers and CEOs and all of the highest ranking political officials in America, all also played by white guys. And it's a story about the one black man who, when he had the same advantages that white people had, absolutely just wipes them all out. And you know what everybody said about Blade in 1998? This movie fucking rocks. I want two more of these. And we got them. And the second one was awesome too. We forget about the third one. Um, I could tell a story about the third one, but I'm not going to, because it's probably going to get me shadowbanned. Blade was awesome. I see a ton of people saying I love Blade. Exactly. Everybody loves Blade. If Blade came out today, everybody would hate it because it would be called woke nonsense. And like that's the difference in mindset comparatively. I had a friend send me a picture of Caitlin Clark getting the fist in the throat by the one player because he's trying to rile up the black versus white thing. And I responded back to him and said, I'm not responding to this until you show me a clip of a white person hitting a black person, because you're obviously only mad when it goes in this direction, trying to pretend like it's one-sided. He's like, I just don't understand, blah, blah, blah. And I said, let me tell you what I don't understand. In 2003, Ron Artest and the rest of the Detroit Pistons ran up in the stands and beat the shit out of a bunch of people, and nobody cared. And now you're acting like this. Like, what changed in your brain chemistry that everything has to be viewed through a racial prism now? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And like I realize how off the topic I am now from the citizen vigilante thing, but here we are. Um yeah, Blade and Blade 2 are awesome. Blade 2 is actually a metaphor for the crack epidemic. Um if you watch it through that lens, I'm very big on subtext in movies, and the Reapers essentially are the equivalent of drug addicts. Um And when you look at it through that lens, the third one, even though it sucked, is about Dracula, and he's basically an equivalent to the Aryan race. He's looking for the pure bloods, right? He doesn't like anybody. Like it's all there. All the subtext is there. Nobody cared. And now everybody pitches a fit. And the second Supergirl says, "Why aren't you called Superwoman?" Or, God forbid, a black man plays a traditionally white character's role because black people weren't allowed to have roles in the 30s. If you haven't heard, a black man was cast as Harvey Dent in the new Batman coming out. First of all, Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in the 1989 Batman, and nobody gave a shit. But more importantly, Batman came out in 1939. Harvey Dent was created a year later in 1940. Don't ask me why I know that. Blade 3 has Ryan Reynolds, Blue Canary, get it right, and that one sucked. But black people weren't in any roles in 1939 because they were barely citizens. So the idea that we're only making remakes in Hollywood from old properties, and the old properties were made at a time when minorities did not have a fair representation given the percentage of the population that they made up. Um, it just is childish. And again, we started this conversation off about the fact that Donald Trump is bankrupting this country, and we are ending on people are mad that Harvey Dent is being played by a black guy. Like, are you starting to see how MAGA and the GOP are able to persist in the way that they are? Because how do I do a show? I did a show for 3.5 years on traditional media that I would argue was one of the most fair and balanced shows that was out there. And I was called names and I was called partisan. Do you know how many opportunities I turned down for interviews from progressives and leftists because I didn't want to just become a leftist interview show? I'm more than happy to do that here, and if Republicans want to come on, they can, but I don't give a shit anymore. Um, but it highlights exactly what an uphill battle we all are fighting right now, because if that's what's willing to distract you, if you are more mad about the Harvey Dent casting than you are that the president that you voted for said that his economic platform is going to completely collapse in on itself if we do anything to change it, then I don't know that you're going to be able, and everybody gets to vote, every vote counts and every vote counts the same, but like you might be lost. And I don't mean lost as in confused or lost as in you need to be found. I don't know that you're coming back. If you're 45, mad about a casting in a movie where a man dresses as a bat at a time when housing prices and healthcare costs are shooting through the roof, I might not be able to save you. You could be a lost cause. And I don't like looking at people through that lens because I do believe we agree on 80% of the stuff. But if you're willing to let the 20% be movie casting and racial relations and all that jazz, and I don't mean racial relations as in equity and making sure life is fair, I mean racial relations as in representation in art. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I keep saying it, even though no one in my effing TikTok chat ever listens to me. But the best movie I have seen in the last decade is Sorry to Bother You. And the only white people in that movie are not carried in a positive light. And I'm telling you right now, if you can't watch that movie and take a ton out of it, then I don't know what to tell you. Because it's phenomenal. Even though you're not a person of color, you can watch what the people are going through. If you've ever worked at inside sales and done telemarketing, it will immediately resonate with you, so on and so forth. Um, Graham Plattner fan club saying you never listen. You never listen to my movie suggestions. You listen to me about helping me build my life, but you never listen to my movie suggestions, which is what actually matters. Um, Rosie said they'll probably remake Jaws at some point, and then Justin said Jaws was a great white shark. Now they're making him a mako shark. Damn libs, exactly. Exactly. And like, you know what's funny? And then I promise I'll move on. Even the first Avengers from 2012, the only black guy in it, Samuel L. Jackson, and he's playing Nick Fury. He's not even one of the superheroes. He's just the guy that brings them all together. And there's a scene when they're all in the shot and the camera spins around them and it's badass and the music plays and the Hulk's like, I'm always angry. And I'm like, this is going to be the greatest theater experience I will ever have in my life. And and then the camera's spinning around them. And then I see it today and I'm just like, you know, it's kind of strange we were okay with there being six Avengers and them all just being white people. Like, it's kind of crazy. Looking at it, that was 14 years ago. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, it's strange that this was just normal. Like we just watched it because like it does stick out to me now because there was a push. MAGA's not making it up. There was a push for more representation in movies. And in my opinion, in a lot of ways for the better. Jordan Peele's Get Out doesn't happen if there weren't that push. And I think Get Out was a fantastic horror movie that did a lot of things that I had never seen done in movies before. And that's what happens when you let communities that historically aren't allowed to put their ideas on film to put their ideas on film. As opposed to having a bunch of people that hang out and all copy one another. Oh, here's an entirely new and fresh perspective on how to do things. Like, that's a good thing. Like, it should be viewed as a good thing. Um, but it isn't for reasons that I'm never going to understand, but it should be viewed that way. Black Panther was good. Let me say this. Culturally, I understand what Black Panther meant. In terms of the grander scheme of the MCU, like the 30 something movies that came out, it's middle of the pack. The CGI was meh. The story was fantastic. Um, and the acting was good, but it was just a generic uh, origin story. But I understand. I was in a theater in the city of Pittsburgh watching that movie. I was without a doubt a minority in the theater that I was in, and there were scenes in that movie that I didn't even get. It was actually eye opening for me, like when Killmonger is in the museum and all the African artifacts are up there hanging on the wall, and the old British lady is telling him about them, and he says, "Well, I'm going to take those off your hands." She's like, "Well, you can't just take them," and he's like, "Well, it seems like you had no problem taking them from my people," and the theater literally stood up and started clapping. And I was like, the fuck? Like, he's gonna steal from the museum. We all on the same page. This is the bad guy. And like, it took me a while to understand exactly where the attitude was coming from. It makes you think, to say the very least. But so I say all of this to say um, that people like identity politics. People like the integration of things. Most of us do. But the idea that MAGA is somehow uniquely against those things, no. They would just rather it go back to not focusing on the white half of stuff anymore. I'm going to read some comments and then we're moving on. I saw Aaron, the intern, pop on and say, I tune out for 6 minutes and it's a movie podcast. It's like, no, that's just, that's what happens on this show if you're not used to it at this point. Let's see here. Supreme Court got something right today. Mail-in ballots will count in November elections. Well, I should hope so. Glad to hear that. That's coming from Ryan. Ann says you can do better than that. Say one every minute and a half for f-bombs. That's funny. We'll see. We'll work it out. We'll find a happy medium in the cussing. I promise. Killmonger wasn't the good guy. Keep in mind, all right, one more thing. For the people who haven't seen Black Panther, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but for those of you that have, you might not even have picked up on this. But just to be clear, Killmonger's strategy in that movie, because they never say it outright, because if they say what his plan was in explicit terms, white people would have revolted. But like, the whole point of it is the secret African nation of Wakanda um, was hiding and wasn't helping out black society around the country. So when blacks were dealing with slavery in America, Wakanda didn't help. They just let the blacks deal with it. And that was their strategy. And they were the good guys. And then Killmonger, who lived in America in like the 80s and dealt with the crack epidemic and all that, finds out that he's a direct lineage to Wakanda, goes in there, becomes king, and is like, yeah, we're done with the isolationism. And his intention is to give all of the high-tech advanced Wakandan weapons to all of the black communities around the world and use them to take out the white people, and then reinstitute a new race where black society was on top and whites were oppressed. Whereas the good guys, whereas the Wakandans, once they realized, like, okay, he's going too far, but he actually has a lot of good points as well. When the movie ends, they're like, okay, what we're going to do is strive for equality. It's actually kind of the point of the X-Men movies as well. Magneto always wanted to take out all of the um humans. Charles Xavier was like, yeah, humans have their flaws, but like we have to figure out a way to live with equality. They were representative of the Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King approach to civil rights in the 60s, of course written by white guys and played by white guys so that white people would be willing to watch a story about race relations and not realize that's what they were watching. Gotta love white people. um, let's see, I have a troll of some kind. This performative white guy hating on white people act is giving me third degree cringe. That statement gave me third degree cringe, Gregory. It's not performative at all. It's just a basic capacity for empathy. Um, you're talking to a guy who was able to quit his sales job um on a whim, say I'm going to get a job passing out magnets at a radio station, and 4 years later I got to have my own show. um One time in high school, to graduate, I had to go to this fancy building and give a presentation. It's our senior project. Um, and I was pacing back and forth because I was nervous. And a random person just came up to me and said, "You look like you're going to be nervous. You look nervous." I went, eh. They were like, "You're going to be fine. I can tell." And I was like, "Thanks." And that was the kind of pick me up I needed. Just little shit like that. It's not money. It's not stuff. It's just little things that happen that if you're not a little crybaby like Gregory, you can kind of understand, like, oh yeah, I had a lot of benefits in life. What it says to me is, Greg is struggling. He doesn't like his job. Maybe he hates his family. I have no idea. But like that's why you're mad and think it's performative. I'm able to view life. I got laid off a week ago, and I'm able to look at life through the positives. Hell, I got laid off a week ago and I got a gig in 3 hours. I had a community rally around me. There are a lot of populations out there that can't say the same thing, and I think pretending otherwise is bad politics. It's bad policy. It's bad attitude. Yeah, it's performative, Matt. You're right. Totally. It's just you can tell when life isn't working out for people because that's where racism stems from. I've shared this story before, and I think it's important to share it. I said it, I believe, with Alex on the phone actually. In 2010, when I was unemployed and my mom had just died, people would talk about racism, and I would say, racism's dead. We have a black president. It's time to stop talking about this. Because I was sitting there like, my life sucks. You talking to me about racism? I'm a white guy and I can't get where I need to go. It's it's for people that don't have their stuff in order. Because if your stuff's in order, the fact that other people are getting a handout doesn't bother you. And it's kind of sad when you stop and think about it. Thanks for the nice message, Nancy. I can't read though. Actually, you know what? I'll just pull it up right now and check that out. Um, I'll let you know, Nancy, if you're listening to this, but thank you for the message. I appreciate that very much. Um, but so that's my attitude on all of that at the very least. And so to call it performative, it's like I realize Matt's kind of a dumbass. Like I'm not going to hold that against him. He's been messaging on the show quite a bit. He struggles understanding things, but If you listened to the last half hour of this show and call that performative after like the examples, and but for the record, this is all off the cuff. Um, sorry for teapotting there or teacupping there, guys. Um, yeah, this is all off the cuff right now, and I just have all these examples ready. But no, I'm performing for an audience. What do you mean I've grown, Jim? I'm still 6'4". I'd like to be 6'7" one day, but I don't think I'm gonna get there. Yeah, everybody like and subscribe, except I mean, especially Matt. Matt is also the one who called me out for allowing Minocqua to pay me to do my show. I'll tell you what, Matt, you hit me up in my Venmo, throw me $1,000 a month, and I won't go join. I'll go find out a way to supplement the other income from other listeners. Go Venmo me $1,000, and then we'll talk about whether or not I'm going to be a Minocqua. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. There's your F bomb for you, everybody. Okay. So on to the next and probably last story of the day. And now I'm going to perform for the right because we're about to hand Violet fucking people in the TikTok chat getting out of pocket. Um so let's now I'm going to perform for the right for everybody here because it's not just the MAGA cult that drives me nuts. As we've been highlighting since Tuesday, and believe you me, I am absolutely here for it. The DSA, the leftists, the Democratic Socialists, everybody who actually intends for transcendent change is starting to win elections, not just in New York, but around the country. You got Fran Hong in Wisconsin, you've got El Said in Michigan, Graham Plattner in Maine, all of the victories in New York, the mayor of Seattle, LA, all of these places. And like before I go any further, I think it should be a dead giveaway that Fox News is inviting all the good Democrats, all the center to center right Democrats on their shows in panic mode the last 5 days to show Republican voters that there are Democrats that they are going to agree with. And I have a handful of examples that we are going to go through here. Um, but it should coalesce for people. And I'm not saying that you have to be a leftist, but I am saying when leftists win elections, and the Democrats and Republicans unite together in almost like an, oh, I don't know what word to use. How about uniparty? When the Democrats and Republicans unite to form a uniparty to push back against leftists winning, and some of you are like, yeah, we need to stop the left, while simultaneously bitching about a uniparty that has been holding us back for the last 45 years, you might have lost the thread and you might want to rethink exactly what it is. Again, I realize those leftists are going to run on being nice to minorities and trans people, but if you can see past that, if you can learn to read, unlike Matt, and get past that, or Greg, I don't know why Greg isn't taking heat. He's just much more forgettable. Um, it shouldn't be like it should be pretty obvious who actually has the public's interest in mind, and both parties are coalescing to stop that kind of stuff. Brian says, funny that when you talk about movies irritating people, I'm wondering why the daily graft unfolding in this administration or politics in general keep me more pissed off. Movies, no. Exactly, Brian, because you're a grown ass man that works for a living. Like the rest of these people just want to sit around bitching that black people are in movies because they can't stay focused on the fact their orange dad president has failed them by every perceivable metric. Um, but so there's a handful of examples that I would like to run through with you guys here, and hopefully, God damn it, hold on, there we go, and hopefully, I am able to figure out once God willing, OBS is going to be up and running tomorrow. We're going to have all the chats combined. And if I can learn how to do it, we're going to add a video as well. But I'm realizing that learning some of this new technology is much more of a task than I thought. I have a very high opinion of my capacity to learn things. And it turns out I bit a little more off a little more than I could chew yesterday because like learning how to use a Mac is just like, What the fuck? But God willing, we're going to have OPS up on this thing today. I'm going to combine all the chats, and then I'm going to be able to play videos for you guys of sound with the video so that I can kind of corroborate what it is that I'm talking about. For the purposes of today, you're just going to have to take my word for it. I feel like if you're here, if you're stuck through this, if you're part of the, based on all three chats, what does that all add up to? If you're part of the 160 something people that are here right now, uh, then it says to me that I've probably earned your trust at this point, and you know what I'm saying is accurate. But so, you've got random TikTok accounts telling you, oh, people are excited about the DSA right now. Meanwhile, Joe Biden cut child poverty in half, and these people hated him. Yeah, he cut child poverty in half and then immediately allowed it to go back to what it was. So let's stop pretending like anything different was happening there. Now let's see. Tom Swozy. You know what? Maybe I can just play the video in a Bush League way right here, like this for today. Let's just try it like this. You guys should be able to hear this.
Moderate Democrats are making a commitment to American values, strong borders, and patriotism.
We're capitalist, not socialist. We believe in safety, not lawlessness. We're proud of America, not ashamed of it. We believe in fiscal discipline. And we have to organize better. We can't just talk about it at cocktail parties. You can't just come on TV shows and make a speech. We have to organize. Healthcare is too expensive. Food prices are too expensive. Your gasoline prices are too expensive. Let's work on the problems that really affect people's lives. And let's build a coalition of people that want to work together under some traditional values.
Please do, because we all love this country. Most of us love this country. But some recent polls have been pretty shocking. Like, I think it was like 30% or 25% of Democrats were proud to be Americans. So keep fighting, Congressman. Thank you so much.
I'm one of those people that's very, very proud.
You're very proud. I know.
Bam, 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 go all the way up.
So, sorry, autoplay was set up there. So, that's Tom Suozzi, the guy who tried to kneecap Zohran Mamdani during his presidency or during his candidacy for mayor in New York. Sorry, put the cart before the horse there. His candidacy in New York. That guy didn't want to see Suozzi to the top. Anthony Weiner went to an LGBTQ parade and was there championing the trans community while everybody was screaming at him about Gaza. He was on TV shortly before I started saying, I don't know where the traditional Democrats have gone, or the Democratic messaging has gone. They it doesn't seem like they care about this kind of stuff anymore. And they had Anthony Weiner as well as Joseph Greenblatt of the ADL on TV talking about how they need to save the party from the radicals. Jared Moskowitz. And I see Aaron the intern mocking me for my technical savvy today. You know what? We're just going to make Duke. Was that audible? I'm assuming it's audible. I'm just going to try it one more time, and then I promise this will be the last video. This is the Democratic representative from Florida, also on Fox News Sunday morning, because it turns out Donald Trump when, you know, the threat to democracy and the mass Virgin Army running around taking the lives of Americans in the street. That didn't rile people up. That didn't get people going. This, however, is what's going to bring people to the limelight.
Well, look, what I would like to see actually is a little tougher language coming out of the Trump administration. I'm to the right of this issue to the J.D. Vance Witkoff approach, and I agree, quite frankly, more with Senator Lindsey Graham and probably Senator Tom Cotton. Iran is the weakest they've been in a period of time. Now is not the time to appease them. Now is the time to put maximum pressure on them and make sure that we dismantle the nuclear program.
It's because of the so it turns out that the fact that the majority of the Democratic Party doesn't want anything to do with the war in Iran has nothing to do with Jared Moskowitz, Democrat of Florida, who describes himself as the Jon Stewart of politics. I'd like to highlight that I'm pretty sure Jon Stewart is the Jon Stewart of politics, but neither here nor there. I like to mix policy with a little bit of sarcasm. Meanwhile, he's advertising himself as to the right of J.D. Vance on the war in Iran. Chris Murphy was on TV yesterday, who literally identifies as a progressive, saying that they should rather focus, and Aaron the intern and I are actually going to be talking about this during Ben After Dark as well, says that Democrats should be more focused on trying to win over MAGA Republicans that are disaffected with the economy rather than trying to placate the far left. So, in other words, the exact same goddamn strategy they tried in 2024, where they didn't win a single swing state and got obliterated by an orange carnival barker with no ideas. That's their strategy for 2026 and in 2028, is to try and appeal again to a MAGA right that does not exist, because placating the left means actually making healthcare affordable, actually holding billionaires to account. Here's the one turn of phrase, and thank you for all the follows on TikTok. Welcome to the party. And everybody subscribe, follow, all that jazz on all my socials. It helps me quite a bit. The interesting part about it is you are finally seeing Democrats, not leftists, Democrats say on the mainstream, we might be hitting an irreconcilable point where Democrats can no longer be buddy-buddy with billionaire interests and still win elections. And I am absolutely here for it. But that tells me that as we get closer to the election, they will bail. Thanks a lot, Susan. And by the way, Susan, because I know you've been asking about it, I have a Patreon and a Venmo up in my link tree. Can one of my mods please throw the link tree in the chat again for anybody that wants to throw a couple bucks? A couple of you guys have been doing so. I'm sorry I missed a couple of the notifications. I promise I'll be sending everybody thanks. And again, don't feel obligated, but I am trying to build a monthly subscription thing down the line. The show's always going to be free. But just if you appreciate what I'm doing and find yourself in a capacity to assist, please do. And Erin said she expects to be called the intern for the rest of her life. Yes, you will. But you'll be Dr. Erin the intern soon enough. So like that's all right. But so you see the way Democrats are talking about this right now, and keep in mind, Donald Trump beating the shit out of Kamala Harris, and the Democrats losing the Senate, losing the House, losing in every conceivable metric that matters. That never. They'll sit there and complain about Trump. They'll go and performatively. These jagoffs in my text want to talk about performative. You want to know what's performative? Go and get arrested outside of a detention facility while not actually trying to enact any change or platform people that are trying to push forward positive change in a good way, right? You didn't get any talk. We did not get any discussion about putting together a bipartisan group to address this until DSA candidates started winning. And now, what's the name of the guy that Peter Griffin called ugly? He's the Raging Cajun. James Carville. God, you're ugly. He now went on TV on Sunday and said that he thinks the Democrats should make a new party separate of the left and go their separate ways. So, in other words, the Democratic Party screws over Bernie Sanders in 2016. Well, gosh, vote blue no matter who. They screw over Bernie Sanders in 2020. Vote blue no matter who. Completely block a primary and put a trash ass candidate up at the top of the ticket. Vote blue no matter who. And then a bunch of DSA candidates win a bunch of primaries by just massive margins against liberals. And it's, hey, maybe we should actually just go do our own separate thing here, because I just don't think there's going to be any reconciling with these people. Isn't it funny how that happens? And yet MAGA Republicans will relish this, because all that means is Republicans will still have a shot, while completely ignoring the fact that Democrats are going to vote with Republicans because they are the uniparty. Bryce says Dems tend to just create conservative loopholes on every bill for neocons to vote for it. Exactly. And then Republicans bitch about those loopholes, right? It's like it's such a circular motion that is driven by fear of transgender people. And I will say, Emily Cephos has been all over my feed this weekend on Facebook, essentially saying she's done with distraction politics topics and she's not going to have the conversation anymore about bathrooms and locker rooms and all that stuff anymore. And if you're a real person and you care about real issues, welcome to the party. And if you want to sit there and bitch about the same three things that you always seem to bitch about, that's on you. And she's just going to address the people that are actually winnable, because at this point it's not no worries. Hell, I did an entire show that placated the right, not because I didn't believe what I was saying. What I'm saying right now is who I am. My frustration with Dems and these centrist ass milquetoasts absolutely is what's holding this country back. But I objectively ignored guests that were leftists and liberals, because a lot of my guests already were leftists and liberals, probably 70 to 80% of them, because right wingers were too scared to come on my show because they know how badly they're fucking up. So I would pass on those guests to placate right wingers who inevitably bitch so loud that I got canceled. So when you see it through that lens and you realize, you know what, I could have just been doing the show the exact way I wanted to and got canceled then. Not to say I wasn't doing it the way I wanted to, because I'll be real, I like having guests, and I think I will start to bring a few more guests on, because now I'm doing 3.5 hours of content a day. So I kind of need a little bit of an assist from time to time, and I have some guests lining up to be on the program here. But it goes to show you that you kind of just end up losing other people when you try and play that game. Just because you say, you know what, I'm not in favor of transgender individuals using the sex that they identify as bathrooms. You know how many votes you're going to pull over? None. Not a single fucking one, because you still think trans people should exist. So unless you're willing to say we should actually stone trans people when they come out of the closet, you're not going to win those votes. It's funny, I saw a couple of comments under the post that said I got fired, that said Ben just assumed that all right-wingers hated the trans population, and that was just a large assumption to make. And I would go under their post and say, well, then condemn Donald Trump's presidency right now, because he's failing by every conceivable metric other than making trans people and minorities more scared than they were under Joe Biden. Didn't get any responses to that. Go figure. Cool. I appreciate it, Susan. She's saying she couldn't find a paid Patreon option, but she's going to set a Venmo up later this week. I will look into that. I only looked at Venmo or Patreon for my first time yesterday, Susan. So I'm learning right there with you. I'm learning a lot of shit this last 7 days. It's been a hell of a ride, but I'm excited about it. But so you see the way things are trending here. And I have to say, I think the Democratic Party is making their strategy pretty well known. They're going to ignore the obvious whims of the people. And I mean, I recognize, and for the record, I am quoting the public release of my radio station, former radio station, that they are no longer doing politics anymore. And I was confirmed that I'm not being replaced in that position. But that being said, I don't think it's any coincidence. I can't prove it. All we have is circumstantial evidence that the DSA is gaining momentum around this nation. There is a DSA candidate on the ballot right now who is currently leading in all the polls. And were that candidate to come out of this primary, there is going to be a national spotlight thrust onto Wisconsin, in a state where elections are oftentimes decided by 20,000 votes. And there used to be a very loud voice on the airwaves that can express progressive ideology in a way that is not extremist or a threat to the average American. When you highlight that most people that are progressive or literal members of the DSA are oftentimes advocating for an America the way it worked between 1945 and 1983, plus acceptance for everybody, it's pretty difficult to avoid that that isn't going to be out there anymore, which is why I'm happy. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to capitalize on this national spotlight from a greedy perspective, absolutely, because I still have the capacity to talk about this in any way I can, and I will absolutely call out the Democratic establishment were Fran to come out. Not a guarantee at all. Kelda Royce is out there making a little noise. Obviously, Mandela Barnes and Sarah Rodriguez make up the top three trio. You have no idea who's going to drop out, how that vote's going to coalesce, what kind of stories are going to drop down the line. But I'll tell you what, I'm writing my first article for the Minocqua Brewer Times right after I get off of this podcast here, and I'm going to send it off to Kirk, and it's going to be an example of why I think Hong is the best representative for governor of Wisconsin and why I believe progressive politics are a way of the future. Annie says, I'm a licensed mental health and AODA clinical therapist and would love to be a guest in your show to talk about politics in relation to mental health and how our politicians talk about mental health. I'd love to have that talk as well, Annie. Private message me and we can get into it. Yeah, oh no, Annie, it's mental health has been relegated to a buzzword that's used to make sure that we don't ever accidentally enact any kind of gun legislation. Um, we'll say I mean, hell, I'm one of those people. I believe gun violence is predominantly as a result of the lack of a social safety net and the lack of mental health resources. So, and then Republicans will be like, me too. Will be like, cool. So let's raise taxes and start funding these. No, actually, Always in Sunny in Philadelphia has a bit about that because they're in a mental institution that's closed down in Philly. They were like, why are all these places closing down anyway? Well, there's so many homeless people on the street. They need a place to go. And someone will be like, well, then we have to raise your taxes. What? I already pay so much in taxes. You can't raise my taxes. I'm not going to do it. I swear I'll revolt. Okay, well, then we're not going to be able to open the mental institutions. What? But we clearly got a problem. And like, it's a circular rhetoric, but that's like real life. And that episode came out in like 2007. So, Waka Waka. Sorry, just reading through some comments here, get a feel for what people are saying. Yeah, Shawnee says, what about cutting our military budget to pay for our needs? They can't even pass an audit anyway. Shawnee, if we see, this is why you guys got dumb suggestions. If we cut the military budget, how would we build a base on the moon? Like, where are your priorities, bro? Uh, um, we really need folks to show up to spring elections, not just November. Turnout was low in my area. Here's the thing, though, Mallory. It was low because Republicans aren't showing up. I'm not saying, like, I think everybody should show up. I'd be fine for like, you have to pay $30 if you don't vote. Like, I'd love that idea. And also, but it should be a holiday. I don't think we should punish people for being working class and having a job. But I think we should be encouraging more people voting, not less. Although it seems like one party in particular is in favor of those kind of things. But as far as spring elections go, and I read and watch enough of right wing media in this country to understand that they are upset. They are trying to pass bills that make Supreme Court elections happen in November because they know that Democrats have replaced them as the party that shows up during the off elections. And that may bear fruit in November this year as well. Only time will tell. But I do think, especially if Hong comes out of it, that there is going to be a national spotlight and a fuck ton of money thrust into this state. So, I should probably see if I can grab some of that revenue, right? If Brian sees that, he's going to be thrilled. Just Glenn Grothman ads playing all the time on my show. That'd be good. But I have a feeling this November won't be the same, but you're right. The April elections, no one cares, and something tells me the August election isn't going to be particularly well attended, but we'll see. We will absolutely see. All I know is I think that if Hong comes out of that primary, it's going to completely reshape the national narrative. Because right now it's that it only works in deep blue cities. And as I stated on Friday, I think people oftentimes conflate purple with moderate. Purple states does not mean people are looking for moderate. Purple states mean there's a bunch of right wingers that are thrilled with the masked Virgin Army and a bunch of leftists that would absolutely be down for eating the rich and trying to find a way to balance those two. I'm a firm believer that an actual leftist will have a better chance than a moderate in Wisconsin in 2026. That's just me. Aaron, I already interviewed Hong on my show. You can catch it on my YouTube page. Oh, son of a bitch. On my Tube of You page uh, in the archive. So some of you guys say you don't see any of my new videos. But that's because when you go on my YouTube page, you will be on the videos tab. Right now, all of my stuff is saved as lives because I have to go through and edit all the videos to make them videos. And to be perfectly frank, I got enough shit on my plate to keep me busy from that perspective. So click on the lives tab and you can see basically every show that I have done since the end of March. And there's one, I'm pretty sure Hong's name is in the title, and we talked for about a half hour. Um, I'd be happy to have her on this program as well, but I would rather interview the other candidates first because statistically speaking, there's a handful of you that have just discovered this show, but by and large, most of you already heard that interview. Larry's hopping on my TikTok chat. Let me turn my volume up here. We got a couple minutes left. Realistically, there's no hard out, so we'll go as long as we have to here. But Larry, what's on your mind, man? Larry.
Am I there?
Yep, what's up?
Oh, hi. How you doing?
All right, what's on your mind?
Oh, not much. I must have butt called you.
Oh, no worries. All right, no,
I'm just, I'm working on the cabin. I'm still in Wisconsin. Yeah, love your show. Yeah, I was gonna say something about a metric F-ton. Being a little larger than just an F-ton.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's much bigger.
Yeah, I agree with the progressive end of it, and the only way to get this thing back in order is to tax the rich because they're politically connected, and they will get all the money when the government decides to inflate the prices or print money, I guess,
Sure.
to create inflation. But that's it. Yeah, thanks.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thanks for being here and the butt dial. Always appreciated. You take it easy. I see Brian complaining about that says I should stop bashing boomers and stop the political and start focusing on the real issues. And I will, Brian, because we only have a couple minutes left here. Boomers good, corporations graft, nepotism, DEA administration leaders, etc. They're all bad. Exactly. So we have a couple minutes left. So I would like to say, Kalshi is reporting, and Brian's a friend, by the way, so nobody be mean in the comments. U.S. housing market has reached its most unaffordable level in history, to which I responded, boomers bought $70,000 houses while making $40,000 a year, and they're trying to convince Gen Z that $700,000 starting homes at $60K is the same thing. Waka waka, Brian. Mallory says, I'm not sure it was only the GOP staying home in the spring. It was all political identities, maybe proportionately more conservative, but still all parties and independents weren't as engaged. Could be true. I haven't seen specific metrics. Jim says, Ben, you're not the only one who believes a true leftist has a better chance of getting elected than a milquetoast. Right on. Seems like Larry agreed as well. And I believe Larry and Jim are also older than me, so it's not even like this is a 30 something or 20 something thing. This is a pretty ubiquitous feeling because, to be frank, guys, and like I can leave you with this, if moderate centrism worked, Donald Trump never would have happened, right? Like, I get that, and I understand how, much like I understand the aftermath of 9/11, I understand how the blue MAGA Dems were able to convince you that Hillary Clinton lost because of sexism and or just sexism, not racism, because she's white, but lost because men won't nominate a woman. I'm here to tell you right now that Hillary Clinton lost because the bulk of the left stayed home. And while I showed up for Biden and I showed up for Kamala, I did not show up for Clinton because I was pissed off. And I'll tell you right now, if a centrist wins outright without the bullshit, yeah, I'll be there in 2028. If I watch an obvious progressive gaining huge momentum and then there's some kind of BS going on behind the scenes, we're going to have some problems. And I don't know if I'm willing to put up with it anymore. And as we're seeing, the Democrats have decided they need to organize and coalesce basically overnight because the left won, while saying, our hands are tied. We are but simple public servants. The entire time, Donald Trump has run ruckshot all over the entire process. I have a feeling we are headed for a reckoning here in terms of political parties. I've been saying since you've met me, we are a two-party system, or excuse me, four parties, minimally four parties in a country cosplaying as a two-party system. And I just don't know how much longer we're going to be able to keep up the facade because the left was required to suck it up and vote for Dems when they decided that the centrist model was the way to go. And now that it seems like their own voters are telling them that they want the opposite, it seems as though now they're willing to take their ball and go home rather than try and do the vote blue no matter who, democracy's at stake thing. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about the movement in general, well, I don't know what will. Let's see here. Just making sure I didn't miss any comments. Oh, does it go in reverse order? How does this stuff work? Anne says, that's interesting about Fox News and Dems showing up there. I like to watch all sides and get a kick out of Bill Maher when he says Republicans are willing to go on his show and take hits, but he can't get a Dem on to save his life. Exactly. And like, that's why the line was like, we need a Democratic version of Joe Rogan. It's like, actually, you don't want it. Realistically, I don't have delusions of grandeur. I don't have the audience, but that's what this show's going to be. I don't like Bill Maher either, Carla, although he did get me into politics, but I don't like what he is now. But if Sarah Rodriguez, Kelda Royce, David Crowley, Mandela Barnes, if they agree to come on my show, they're going to have to answer questions about data centers. And when they say something about economic opportunity, I'm going to say, well, then how come I have audio of a Microsoft attorney straight up saying there's no economic opportunity for the majority of people once these data centers are built? And if you are caught off guard by that or get mad by that, you're probably not going to want to come on the show again. And then it becomes a matter of, is your show engaging enough? That's why I wanted to learn how to be able to carry a show for 2 hours without talking to anybody. And that's why I basically have done the show that way the whole time, because access is predicated on softballs. And so if access is the way you get your show out there, then that means you got to make sure you're doing an interview that makes the person being interviewed feel safe. Now, If it's a public health official, if it's not somebody who's going to be governing you, yes, that is the point of somebody in my position. But when you're asking a politician questions and they can't defend their platform, case in point, when I first moved out here, I had to email, I had a 15 chain email with Mandela Barnes' campaign manager back in 2022, where he was like, Ben, it's industry standard for you to provide the questions beforehand for an interview. And I said, the questions are going to be about your platform. If the candidate is not in a position to be able to answer questions about his platform, then he's probably not in a position to win this election. So he can either come on my show without the questions or he doesn't need to be here. And he came on the show. He actually came on the show again on election day to remind people to vote because he had such a good time the first time. Because I'm not an ass. But I also think that you should probably be able to defend why you think data centers are a good idea, why it seems like every state where they raise taxes on billionaires, it doesn't seem like any of the billionaires leave. And yet that's the talking point that a lot of Democrats use when people bring up the idea of taxing the rich. It's kind of difficult. And you say Hassan's the Rogan counterweight, Rusty. Show me a lib going on Hassan. You know what I mean? I'm saying the Democratic Party is saying it, not the progressives, not the leftists. Like the Nancy Pelosi flank of the Democratic Party is saying we need a Democratic Joe Rogan. Is Nancy Pelosi going to go on Hassan? No. And that's not an indictment on Hassan. He does phenomenal work. It's time to grow up. Like, the Democrats say they want somebody that holds them to account. And for the record, I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like Joe Rogan was holding any of the right wingers' feet to the fire. But at least when they're not in front of him, he talks shit on their policies, which is a step in the right direction. It's not like the propaganda you see on mainstream networks. Yeah, Midas is all right, but again, to me, they feel more like propaganda than they do actually holding liberals to account. And like that's probably the hardest part about being a Democrat or on the left is there really isn't a flank of Republican politics interested in holding Republicans to account. Economy is the best it's ever been. Sucked under Joe Biden. Great now. Whereas Joe Biden goes and arms and funds the big G in Gaza and all of a sudden 40% of the party's like, bro, if you do not pivot soon, you're losing me as a supporter. Republicans don't need to worry about that. That's the downside of the Democrats cosplaying as good guys while basically just being slightly less corrupt than what MAGA is that their voters actually believe they're not corrupt. So they want to see that kind of stuff. They believe you're anti-war. They believe you're going to tax the rich. They believe you're going to make life more affordable for the 90% of people that are struggling right now. And when you don't, or when you provide excuses for why, there is blue MAGA, and a lot of them will pretend that everything's fine. I had people that would call my show and would scream at me that Bidenomics is working, when so clearly it wasn't. Like they have their blue MAGA as well. But Republicans don't have to worry about a rightist revolt, right? I saw one social media influencer say they think the only thing Donald Trump could do to lose support is say black people deserve reparations. And it would probably be called performative. I think that's as good of a point as any to wrap the show up today. Thank you so much for everybody that was here. Thank you even more to the people that are hanging out for 2 hours every time. I looked it up. My average, I get my analytics. My average viewer hangs out for more than a half hour, on YouTube at least. I don't have my Facebook and TikTok metrics yet, but I probably do. I need to coalesce all this stuff. Oh my God, it's so much stuff. I'm gonna get there though. I will get there. We're slowly putting some stuff together here and things are really coming around. But I really appreciate you guys hanging out and supporting the show, offering to find ways to support me, whether it be with your views, your follows, your subscriptions, or occasionally your dollars. Everybody has been incredibly supportive. I can't believe I've been joking. I said it's the longest month I've ever had, and the craziest part is it's only been a week. Um, and yeah, exactly, Rusty. Free Palestine. I'm right there with you. Um, Thank you for being here. We're going to keep it rolling. We got another show tomorrow. You're welcome, Kev. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, subscribe. I've got TikTok. I've got the Tube of You. I've got Facebook, and I'm starting to be in a lot of other places as well. And hopefully, we'll very soon be able to post to those places. And of course, through the Monocle Brewing Company as well. And on that Substack, shout out to them for being so willing to kind of facilitate this, be the first to syndicate the show, as it were. But without giving away too many details, there's a second entity that's already interested in picking up the show, and something tells me that there's probably going to be more on the horizon as we move forward. Ben After Dark tonight, 7 p.m. Aaron the Forever Intern on the program. Anybody who wants to come around, we're going to be talking more about Chris Murphy, more about the Dems, and any other news that breaks over the course of the next 8 hours, plus like the random nonsense that you guys have all come to know and love. All that and more, 7 p.m. tonight, guys. Thank you for being here. Have a lovely rest of your Monday.